Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Kingdom of Rizia. So, in the last episode, we had not really a crisis per se, but we had a little bit going on with our friends up here, Lesbia. So, they decided to join ADO, which is the not NATO faction here in the Suzerain universe. And that may cause some problems later on because we do want Pales back at some point in time. And I believe they have a bit of a problem with Lesbia. So, with Lesbia already having a bit of a they're I'm pretty sure they're far more advanced than us as far as their air force and their military strength goes, whatnot. And I can't remember whether Pales has issues with Lesbia or is that Pales has had some military trade with them or something like that. I know it would be a problem. I do remember them saying that it would be a problem if we invaded Pales. So yeah, that's going to be something that we'll have to contend with. But I think the first thing that we'll have to actually contend with is dealing with this little area up here, Zeal, and getting that back from Wehlen. We're supposed to be meeting with Smolak at the end of the year. I do remember that being mentioned in the last episode as well. I did get some advice from the comments as well. Again, thank you very much. I do appreciate it because, again, I don't know how long this is going to be and I don't know how much time I have to do things. So it could be a lot of constraints that I have, a little bit more than the main game. But I was told that there are a couple things that I should do. One is that I should build this dam here. I wasn't told why exactly. I can see one big reason why that might be the case, which is the energy output here. That is +3 energy a turn. So we only have +1 right now since we lost one of the oil fields. So that would definitely be a big boost as far as our energy needs, and that's energy that we can sell off to in the process for budget. But as you can see, that's -5 budget. So we just do not have that at the moment. The other thing that I actually want to do too is I do want to expand the offshore gas field as well. That's a +2. It only costs 3 budget in the process. But since, oil is supposed to be a big thing that we have going on here, that would definitely help us in the long run too. And I think gas was mentioned as something that we should really explore too in the future. Now, how I'm gonna be able to do that, no idea at the moment because we don't really have the energy to sell off. And on top of that, we don't really have that much coming in. So we're looking at about 2 turns before that we could actually get that. So I will be looking for some opportunities to go ahead and sell things off so we can go ahead and get some more budget so we can possibly do that. Actually, let's see. Sell second batch of military equipment to the international market. That's going to cost us some authority. That's the only problem about that. But we could do that. That would give us 4, right? Hold on, let me see that. That would give us 3. So yeah, that would have us at 3, which means we could do the offshore drilling, right? Yeah, we could do the gas drilling because that's -3 budget. But I don't know how I feel about selling off some more of our equipment. And again, it's going to cost us some authority. Okay, we can also sell some support vehicles too, and that'll give us 2. Matter of fact, we can sell some support vehicles and we can turn around and sell some more equipment, and that will give us enough for the dam and we can start getting that going. Now granted, I do think it's going to take a while. Yeah, it's going to take 4 turns before we get that back. So yeah, that's going to be quite an endeavor. And I think the offshore gas field, that's 3 turns as well. So still quite a bit. But I think I will go ahead and do this so I can go ahead and get the money right now. So let's go ahead, sell some support vehicles. Okay. And let's see, where's the other one? We can sell the second batch. Now for the tanks, that would give us 3 budget, but that would cost us 25 tanks. I don't think I'm going to do that. I feel like it'll be easier to get the equipment back as opposed to a freaking tank. So, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. And I don't like losing the authority, but c'est la vie in this case. Okay, so can we... Oh, that costs 2 authority too in the process. Well, I mean, that's fine. I can go ahead and get that back. Yeah, I can get that back the very next turn. And I also have some extra money, so I can go ahead and do the offshore drill and I can do the dam at the same time. So, okay. I'll leave that alone for right now. Now, is there anything I can pass that will... Yeah, doesn't look like there's anything that I can pass to give me authority at the moment. Yeah, that just gives me energy. Yeah, all these either give me energy or I'm selling off and getting some budget back. So not really a biggie, but I can definitely get that back. So not that big a deal. I was also told that I should go ahead and train some units. So I guess I will go ahead and do that. I was thinking about doing the tank stuff anyway. So let's go ahead and get that started. And I guess we can go ahead and do some infantry as well. Okay. All right, so we got some infantry going. We also got a tank unit going. I don't know how big that's supposed to, the big the unit size is supposed to represent, but sure, we have it going. Okay. What's going on here at Fos de Tor? Rifle production halted in Fos de Tor after accident. A machine at the Fos de Tor rifle plant has experienced a malfunction, stalling weapons production for the next week. The cause is being looked into, but the plant manager indicates that due to the ongoing labor shortage, fewer workers have been overseeing production at the plant, leading to more potential for human error. Okay. Sordish delegation to visit Port Drazen. Sordish President Ewald Alfonso will be arriving in Port Drazen on Monday. In lieu of the vice president, he will be accompanied by his development minister, Gus Manger. As this is Sortland's first visit to Rizia in many years, a morning of diplomatic ceremonies at Palace Resna has been planned, followed by talks in the afternoon and a banquet in the evening. Okay. Excavation promises touristic and cultural renaissance. The recent uncovering of a vast resident city near Topaz is poised to become a beacon of cultural tourism, with experts proposing it for designation as an Alliance of Nation heritage site. Anticipated to draw visitors globally, the site's potential excavation and restoration offer a glimpse into a historical reawakening that could transform local heritage into a shared global legacy. The promise of enhanced cultural pride and economic influx through tourism has local authorities eager to initiate this landmark project. All right, so it looks like we've read everything. I'm also guessing that when I have this stamp on it, that means I've already read it too. So, all right, so we got 7 articles here. I was also told that there can be more newspapers. I don't know how. I mean, I know how many more there can be, but I'm assuming that maybe at least 2 more, because I think there were 2 newspapers that were kind of leaning in different directions in the main game, or if I remember correctly, it might have just been the Swordland, the main newspaper from Swordland, that would lean one way or the other, depending on whether or not you were favorable towards Corianti, if I'm not mistaken. That was his name. Again, it's been a while. So, all right. Rufus Gregg's royal gossip. Ball season begins. As palaces in Rizia begin throwing open their doors for glamorous feats, there's one question on everyone's lips. Where's Princess Vena? Beautiful, well-mannered, and in the prime of her life, the young heiress should be a fixture at these events. But it seems King Ramis would rather keep his daughter by his side than show her off to the world, even going so far as to drag her along to his council meetings. How is she supposed to find the dashing husband she deserves if she never leaves the palace? The princess has a right to attend council meetings, of course, but it's also our right to see her in a poofy gown and speculate wildly and about her love life. Free Vena, I say. Okay, that was kind of funny. energy exports to increase minimally. In an effort to slightly boost the treasury, it was announced that the kingdom is exploring the possibility of selling off a small part of our gas surplus to interested global partners. A specific partner is still to be found, but several nations have already expressed interest. During the press announcement, it was especially stressed that only a small surplus will get sold in order not to endanger Rizia's domestic supply. It was also highlighted that only one stable partner will be sought and that no reckless sale will take place. King generously grants stimulus checks to population. In order to relieve the economic burden on Rizia's people, King Ramis has signed a decree ordering the handout of millions of guilders and stimulus checks to the people. A sign of his generosity, the king's decision has been applauded across the political spectrum, with the Rizian People's Party calling it a historic decision. The handouts will provide relief to millions of families and individuals across this country, helping people with making ends meet and boosting consumer spending. It's on days like these that we must hail King Ramis and thank him for all he's doing to ensure the Rizian people can live happy and worry-free lives. Kingdom surveys its lands. His Majesty's office has announced that an expansive and detailed mineralogical survey of all of Rizia will be carried out in the coming months in order to chart which precious resources remain hidden under the kingdom's crust. Teams of geologists will be formed and in close cooperation with universities and mining companies carrying out the survey. The latest technological techniques will be used in this process, all funded by the Treasury. While, of course, the exact value remains to be seen, geologists have stated that they are confident that vast mineral deposits will be uncovered. If exploited, these might have the potential to spark another economic boom, propelling the country's wealth to even greater heights. Okay. Geopolitical non-aligned movement in a group of crows Jesus Christ. Amid escalating tensions between the world's superpowers, a significant non-alignment movement within the Alliance of Nations is gaining traction. Discounted by the hostile actions from both blocs, this group, adopting strategies akin to Kairut, declares a balanced stance toward both superpowers and openly invites trade partnerships. This trend, reflective of a geopolitical strategy focusing on neutrality and economic pragmatism, signals a potential shift in the international arena. These nations, by choosing not to align with either superpower, are positioning themselves as pivotal players in global diplomacy, potentially influencing major decisions and maintaining their sovereignty in a polarized world. Okay, I mean, I do like that idea now more so than I did originally. Because at first I was just like, well, I don't know how that's going to work out. But since they're kind of focusing more on the economy, okay, that's fairly interesting. Might want to see if I can get to working with them. Confederacy of Vendenism faces democratic forces. In the southeastern region of Xena, the Confederacy of Vendenism is grappling with a wave of democratic movements challenging its long-standing monarchic rule. Key states within the Confederacy, including the Sultanate of Rakkara, the Holy Isles of Pinguvi, and the Duchy of Tamarin, are facing heightened instability. Suspicions arise that external forces from Arcasia and United Cantana are backing these movements, further complicating the political landscape. The Confederate Council, led by Prince Consort Kabuin Sangtam, is actively countering the tide with increased mobilization of pro-monarchist troops and intensified intelligence operations. These measures are aimed at suppressing the growing democratic fervor that is leading to escalating conflicts across both urban and rural areas of Vendenism. Rizia to become energy exporter. Rizia's kingdom has announced to Marcopa nations that it's looking to step up its export of gas. The country is looking for regional partners to sell to, intending to improve its diplomatic standing through the trade of one of its most valuable resources. Okay, it's starting to look like certain things that were going on in Southeast Asia and around the 60s and 70s and such. Don't know how much of an influence we're going to have on those things, or maybe some of this stuff will come knocking on our door. Maybe this stuff will end up in other DLCs. No idea. Okay, we have include Alina in the trade talks. Should Treasury Counselor Alina Werner be present for the upcoming Sordish trade talks? Sure, why not? The Sordish delegation is expected to bring up the reopening of Sordish-Rizian trade relations during their upcoming visit. While Treasury Counselor Alina Warner would normally be present for such a discussion, Development Minister Gus Manger has requested to speak with the king alone. Interesting. I'm not sure about this now. I mean, but Gus wasn't necessarily like a bad guy in the last game. He just was very sneaky, and he always had little things that he was doing on the side. Now, granted, this might benefit me in the process, but yeah, I'm not too sure. I'll humor him. Yeah, I'll humor him. Let's see what he has to say. Oh, okay, we have two events going on. So we have that, the Sordish delegation, Queer's gas fuel reserves alert. Oh, God. The important fuel will run out if no action regarding expansions are taken. That's going to cost 1 energy per turn in the future. The iconic Aquarius gas field, a beacon of Rizia's energy prowess since 1921, is sending distress signals. Recent reports indicate dwindling reserves at an alarming rate. While it has been a consistent contributor to Rizia's energy matrix, its operational future now seems precarious. Without immediate and targeted surveys, followed by potential offshore excavation, the gas field is projected to cease operation in the coming years. The kingdom will find a solution by decree. Okay, so that's not good. So yeah, we're gonna have to boost that some more. I was thinking for a second that might turn around and end up being another -1, but luckily it's just the main -1. Okay. Let's see what this Sordish delegation has going on. My royal yacht, the Rizia, smoothly cleaved through the waters of the Zapana River Delta. See, you missed an opportunity there. The Riz would have been perfect. I stood on the deck next to Ewald Afonso, president of Swordland. After hours of diplomatic formalities in Palace Resna, the sea breeze felt amazing. Alfonso removed his jacket and looked up admiringly at the wide cable bridge that connected Port Drazen's two halves. What a great idea this boat tour was. It would have been a pity to spend our entire visit trapped in a stuffy old palace. He rushed to correct himself. A beautiful, elegant old palace, Your Majesty. The ship's horn let out a blast as we passed beneath the bridge. Show Alfonso the new town. I directed the Sordish president's attention to the glass skyscrapers of the new town, where Rizia's banks and major corporations were headquartered. See, this is what I like about your country. You're not afraid of the future. I guess I'll try to humor him and kind of be nice to him, but my grandmother was definitely thinking ahead when she made those trade deals with Swordland years ago. Liza the Great. It's not easy living in the shadows of our predecessors. The Colonel was no great fan of monarchies, as you will recall. Me? I'm more flexible. The only difference between your republic and our monarchy is that Rizian people are happier. Nor was my father keen on democracy. You and I have much in common. Yeah, let's go with that. Gus said he thought we'd get along. Speak of the devil. Gus Manger emerged from the ship's cabin, clutching a bottle and grinning triumphantly. Ewald, they have it. I tried Contavel exactly once from a Rizian chef and host lord who smuggled it over in his steamer trunk. Haven't stopped thinking about it ever since. He turned to me apologetically. Our mutual friend Russello mentioned your yacht had an excellent wine cellar, and, well, I couldn't help myself. A man of exquisite taste. I like you already. Again, I'm just going to humor them for now. toast to exquisite taste then. Butler. Pable smoothly appeared from behind us with 3 glasses. Gus handed him the bottle. Excellent choice, Mr. Manger. Please allow me. He turned his back as he filled our glasses, secretly pouring a non-alcoholic wine substitute into mine. We were used to this routine by now. This should taste of cherry and black pepper, with a faint hint of leather. We raised our glasses. I kind of want to say this, but I feel like Ewald isn't that type of guy. That's more of a, that's more of a Tarquin Soul type thing. So I'll go with To New Beginnings. And new prosperity. And new friends. We drank. Gus sighed with pure pleasure. Alfonso's expression bordered on disbelief. All apologies to Geralt of Ribery, but this is in fact the best wine I've ever tasted. I remember you can actually buy that. You can buy that winery in the main game if you're friends with Gus Manger. I think it's one of the more basic options that he gives you. I think the most expensive option he gives you is, of course, you can buy one of the football teams, if I'm not mistaken. I told you, I know certain Sordish movers and shakers who'd kill to have access to a beverage of this caliber. Which brings me to that deal I suggested. Ah, yes, the free trade of Rizian wine for Sordish whiskey. As good a way as any to get our relations flowing again, if you'll pardon the pun. That can't be the only reason you traveled all this way. Call it an aperitif. Alfonso opened his attaché and pulled out a bottle of Earlery Maroon 30-year-old. I'll turn to be the connoisseur, Your Majesty. Butler, 3 tumblers, no ice. Pebble approached with 3 glasses. Actually, I'll take your word for it. The wine's already gone to my head. I really must insist. There was no way out of this. Pable poured me a small amount with an apologetic shrug. I'll do the toast this time. How do you people say it? Apraso. We drank. The flavor rushed over my tongue. Wood smoke and forest moss tapering off to a sweet, silky smooth finish. It was my first taste of alcohol in years. I was surprised by how pleasurable it was. It's heavenly. Like tasting the very soul of Earlery itself. Since your treasury crone isn't here to put a damper on proceedings, should we get straight to it? Yes, let's. Alfonso reopened his briefcase and took out some paperwork. It's all boilerplate, really. The governments of Rizia and Sordland, recognizing the importance of promoting economic growth and cooperation and desiring to enhance their mutual interests, conducted in a manner that is consistent with their respective domestic laws and regulations. Keep listening. The parties shall agree to cooperate in the development and implementation of sanitary measures. He went on. Elimination of tariffs to be completed within 6 months from the entry into force. I don't know about that. Keep listening. Ensuring that respective customs procedures and other trade-related measures are transparent, efficient, and predictable. I'm going to just keep listening. In equal amounts of 100 tons of wine and 50 barrels of whiskey per year, subject to availability. Wait. Yes. Equal amounts. Demand for Rizian wine in Sordland is far higher than that for Sordish whiskey in Rizia. Good catch. We can change that section if you like. Quantity subject to market demand. Demand in Rizia will skyrocket once Earlery Maroon hits the market, trust me. So, Is it a trade, Your Majesty? Hmm. Uh, yeah, let's go ahead and go with the trade deal. Definitely. Expect to see all our bars serving Sordish whiskey by next year. Excellent, Your Majesty. Another reason for me to return to this gem of a country. The yacht lingered at the mouth of the Zepina Delta as the sun lowered in the sky, turning the water from turquoise to gold. As much as Sorlin's most valued citizens would appreciate your wine, we believe there is something else they'll find even more stunning. He gestured at his surroundings, then down at the short sleeve shirt he was wearing. Have you thought about Rizia's untapped tourism potential, Your Majesty? Yes, many times. Our beaches put Lesbia to shame, after all. They're true diamonds in the rough. I know that for a long time, international tourists stayed away from the Valenquier's coast because of the delicate situation with Pales. He pronounced the last word as Pales. It's Palais? I'm not going to correct them because I've been pronouncing this wrong the entire time. Okay, so it's Palace. Right? Yeah. Or is it just Palais? Rhymes with ballet. Well, shit. Okay. Don't correct him. My point is that it might finally be time to bring underdeveloped shores to life. I took the liberty of hiring a designer to draw this up. He reached inside his jacket pocket and pulled out a sheet of paper with a sketch on it. I recognized the beach it depicted. It was a picturesque stretch of sand and monkeys, not far from the palace where I had grown up. Right on the coastline, the designer had placed a sprawling complex with a swimming pool and tennis court. On it was a sign, Caronte Resort Valenquieres. Would that be the senior or the junior Caronte? You've done your research, I see. This is Marcel's initiative, along with certain other members of the Lothberg group. Our partners are considering significant investment along the Valenquier's coast. If all went well, the Caronte Resort would only be the first step. Alfonso swirled the last drop of whiskey around his glass. I'm aware of how your nobles see Sordish oligarchs. I'm also aware that the world-renowned riches have diminished with each successive generation. Change is not merely inevitable, Your Majesty. It's the only way to preserve the lifestyle to which you're all accustomed. Your grandmother understood that. Let's see. I do want the money. I really do want the money, so I might go along with this deal. It would piss off the nobility, probably, though. But we do need income, and income is always nice. And I do expect some income to kind of get negated here at some point in time, too. So let's go along with this. Well said, Mr. President. My relatives could use a good shock to the system, and we do like shocking the system. So that's a yes on the proposal. It is indeed. I hope I'm invited to the grand opening. Gus laughed. The king will get a free stay in the largest suite anytime he likes. Alfonso rubbed his hands together. In less than an hour, we've accomplished more for our countries than our predecessors managed in 30 years. I'd say that calls for a celebration. Butler, another bottle. You heard the man, Pable. Pable reappeared, another bottle in his hands. He filled our glasses with a look of annoyance that only I could detect. I tasted mine, nothing but juice. Somehow he had still managed to perform the switch. The yacht began to turn back towards Port Drazen as the sun disappeared over the horizon. All right. Oh, we got a little collector's items here. Valenquier's postcard. It looks like we might have a few things that we can unlock here. Okay. All right, so let's get back into it. We have a couple of things that happen here. Let's see, conversation with Vena. And what else do we have at the palace? Commission tourist family statues. Pretty sure I don't. Well, I do have quite the budget for things, but still. All right. Hazaros rebuked for conducting military exercise close to Terrador border. The governor of Terrador has issued a stern rebuke to the Hazaros of Cardis Montclair after their provincial military conducted exercises near the Palais Administrative District, labeling the drills as unnecessarily provocative. The governor called for restraint and dialogue to address any inter-provincial tensions. The statement emphasized the importance of peaceful coexistence and cooperation within the Kingdom of Rizia. Okay. Was that it? Oh, I guess that was the only thing. All right. Read the report. Alka Springs Leisure Club closed amid homosexual revelations. Police in Montclair conducted a raid of the so-called health retreat, Alka Springs Leisure Club, following a tip-off that the bathing facility was in fact a gathering place for the local homosexual community. During their unscheduled visit, several same-sex couples were indeed found to be engaging in illegal activity. They were promptly arrested and the leisure club shut down. Okay, so being gay in this country is a crime. We're gonna have to get that fixed. That's stupid. Let's see. I'm guessing that's gonna come up later on. More than likely. Remove Golconda's blasphemy law. Embarking on a path towards spiritual inclusivity by abolishing the existing blasphemy laws, the kingdom is granting Golcondas unrestricted access to pivotal religious sites. While this shift aligns with the spirit of religious freedom and is likely to be welcomed by Dirtia and the Golcondas community in the nation, it simultaneously carries the potential to stir concerns within both the Desnuris community and other broader public spheres. Moreover, the diplomatic waves may reach Wehlen, which might view this policy change with skepticism or apprehension, possibly influencing bilateral relations. Yeah, we're not going to do that right now. Permanent work permit for labor hands. I do want to do this at some point, but I think for right now, I'm going to stay away from both the welfare and the economy stuff, because again, the main stuff I want to focus on is trying to get the dam built, and I also want to focus on getting that offshore gas field as well. So, commission tourist family statues. That's -1 budget, +1 authority. There's been a proposition to erect statues across the nation to honor, in honor of the grand legacy of House Taurus. The choices are varied, one that honors King Valero, another showcasing the late king alongside his son, Ramus, or a grand portrayal of the entire recent Taurus lineage. Sure, let's do that because I want that extra authority there. Okay, and does that open up any decrees for us right now? At least any of the ones that I would like. Okay, Monkey's Port and Naval Shipyard expansion. It gives me the offshore gas field. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do this. That's -3 budget. That's going to leave us a little short in the next turn, but perhaps we can get some more budget in the process. But I want it, so let's get it because we need it. Okay, so yeah, that authority did not last long at all. But again, that's going to help us out in the future. That's going to help us out quite a bit. Because how much is that going to give us again? Was that the 3? That's 2 energy a turn. And I can also imagine that with us trying to work out deals with different countries to send our oil in the process, that's going to help quite a bit. So it does kind of make me want to sell off some energy though, but I think the only one that we have is, oh no, we can't sell off any energy because you need authority in order to do that. And we could, yeah, and see this, that doesn't seem reasonable to me. because that would still leave us short. We would need at least 3 budget, so the next turn we can have enough to get the dam, and that's gonna be quite expensive. All right, Monkeys, let's have a conversation with our daughter. Well, first let's read this report. Monkeys Port reports ship logjam. Nearly 30 container ships were caught in a logjam by the port of Monkeys yesterday, many of them transporting goods to Roomberg's Port Grim. Officials say this highlights the need to upgrade the facilities for faster docking and processing. Jesus Christ, what did my father do the entire time? It sounds like he did absolutely nothing. Jesus. I mean, I know he basically turned into King Ares and was spying on everybody, but beyond that, like, he didn't do anything. Okay, conversation with Vena. Don't be like my father. It was low tide. The waves of the Antician Sea lapped at the sands below the cliffs of Monkeys. A trail was carved into the cliffside, just wide enough for a single horse. Vena picked up speed as she guided her mare, Lizzie, around a sharp curve. I'll let her do her thing. Just go faster. I urged my own horse on. She balked at the steep drop, slowing us down. Vena glanced back at me with a grin. Meet you at the beach. I watched her fly down the trail. She'd thrown herself into horseback riding after Lena died. We kept a few hours in Port Dresden as well, but Lizzie was her favorite. I followed her at a leisurely pace, taking time to gaze back up at the hills at Palace Monkeys. While Hubertus Torres governing the province from his own estate, I was free to visit my old home and its private beach anytime I liked. At the bottom of the trail was a sheltered cove where Pabel had laid out a picnic lunch. I dismounted and sat down next to Vena. You really didn't have to come back to Monkeys with me, Father. I wanted to. Council meetings don't exactly count as quality time together. Deciding the fate of the country together? That screams quality time to me. Let's see. I don't know how much we're deciding. Sometimes I feel like it's out of any of our hands. You just accepted that Sordish resort deal, didn't you? That was entirely your decision. Do you agree with it? Should I have turned them down instead? Vena thought for a moment. I don't think so. I mean, Queen Liza recognized the importance of being connected with Swordland. Mother would be rolling in her grave at the news, though. Remember how she always used to call them sordid instead of Sordish? Don't even get me started on what your Aunt B calls them. She picked up a lobster salad sandwich from the picnic basket and nibbled at it. A solemn silence descended as we stared out at the waves. 8 years since she died. When I'm here, it might as well have been yesterday. Tell me about it. It hurts every time we come back here. But we keep doing it anyway. I can't even dip my toe in the water or it'll all come rushing back. I looked out at the sea again. Let yourself remember. The memories rushed over me. The sickening sound the boat had made as its girders splintered, calling out for my wife over and over until my voice finally gave out. The beep of the hospital machines as I told Vena to say goodbye to her mother one last time. Was there anything I could have done to save her? In another timeline, were there 3 of us sitting on this beach instead of 2? Tears formed at the corners of my eyes. I'm with my daughter. I started sobbing. Vena appeared at a loss for words. She tentatively put a hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry, Father. I didn't realize it was still so fresh for you as well. Grief isn't a straight line, my daughter. It ebbs and flows like the tide. Or should I say, we've got to move forward. Lena wouldn't have wanted us to stay in mourning for so long. I'll say grief is in a straight line. It's always high tide for me. I'm not sure I even want to come up for air. She wiped her eyes. But you must be feeling the same way about Mother, otherwise you would have remarried by now. 8 years and not so much as a date. Looking after you has been my #1 priority. You can't use that as an excuse for much longer. She nervously picked up a handful of sand and let it run through her fingers. So, if you were to meet someone, what if you had a son? Who would be your successor when you died? Oh God, here we go. With the House of the Dragon situation going on. What makes you think Rizia will still be ruled by a monarch by the time I die? He'd become my successor, of course. Those are the rules, but you'll still be a duchess. I'll still declare you next in line. Rizia needs a queen like you, and the rules were meant to be broken. Yeah, because see, I do feel like that would cause a lot of problems, because even if I want her to rule next, it might still be a situation where they're like, well, we have a son, so, the son has to be king next. And that would cause problems because then factions are going to split up. Again, House of the Dragon, so there you go. But yeah, what makes you think Rizia will still be ruled by monarchs by the time I die? Vena's eyes grew wide. You mean... I mean, I'm not going to say that. The future remains unpredictable. We must tread cautiously, Vena. This isn't a mere child's play from your younger days. No, I'm not going to say that. Or maybe I should say it's time for the people of Rizia to hold real power. But what will become of us? We will still perform some important duties, but a democratically elected leader should do the real work of governing the country. Or we could have something kind of similar to Japan. We would stay on, but only in a symbolic role, the human embodiment of Rizian grace and dignity. We could do anything we wanted, all the riches, none of the responsibility. Isn't that the dream? Or we'd live as normal citizens. We don't deserve to be treated as superior simply by virtue of our birth. Yeah, I'll just say this. Do an easy transition. I don't know if this country is ready for like a full-blown democratically elected leader and no kings or anything like that. We will still perform some important duties, but a democratically elected leader should do the real work of governing the country. I understand, I think. Queen Liza likened the monarchy to a steady ship on a turbulent ocean. We provide stability and comfort even during the most unpredictable of times. It may be a steady ship, but it sails on the currents of privilege and tradition, not the winds of change and progress. It doesn't need to be the case. Monarchs have embraced change and progress in the past. The tide was beginning to lap at the edge of our blanket. We stood up and pulled it away from the water. Father, one more thing. What? It's just, grandmother is always on about how I need to find the right husband. How important is it to you, really, whom I marry? Why? Do you have any candidates in mind? No, but do you? Are you going to marry me off like your father did to you? Uh, Absolutely not. Arranged marriage is a barbaric tradition. I really don't plan to do that. Says in Crusader Kings. It worked out for you and mother. I still wish I'd had a choice. The least I can do is grant you one. She smiled. That means a lot, Father, and it's a decision I won't take lightly. She hopped astride Lizzie. Sorry to run, but one of the countesses from my school days has invited me for tea. She's just a few estates down the beach from here. Try and gauge her reaction to the Sordish resort idea, will you? I already know her family hates it, but I'll try to sway them for you. She rode away. The trip back up the palace felt a lot longer than the way down. It was dusk by the time I'd returned my horse to the stables. I staggered through the doorway of Palace Monkeys, exhausted. Pabel swiftly took my coat. Welcome back, Your Majesty. Where's the princess? She visited with a friend, but she wanted to thank you for lunch. Monkey's lobster. It's never so sweet as when it's fresh out of the water. There's a warm bath waiting for you upstairs in case you're sore from the ride. You read my mind, Pabel. All part of the job. I made my way to Palace Monkeys' master bathroom, where an enormous clawfoot tub was filled to the brim with soapy, eucalyptus-scented water. I undressed and got in. Okay, scrub your right arm. I scrubbed my right arm. The temperature was perfect. A tap came at the door, so soft I thought I was imagining it at first. Your Majesty? Yes? May I come in? I forgot to leave you a towel. Sure, I guess. The door slowly opened and Pabel entered, a fluffy towel in his arms. He hung it on the hook on the wall. I noticed an identical towel on the hook next to it. Pabel? Thanks, but no. Is there another reason you wanted to come in, sir? He took a step closer to the tub, conscientiously keeping his eyes on the wall. Actually, there was something I wanted to bring up without any guards around. Okay, sounds serious. It might be, or it might not be. I'm not sure. There was a small stool next to the tub. He moved over to it and sat with his back to me. Well, what did you want to tell me? Pabel spoke the next words slowly. Your Majesty, how much have you been told about your father's death? Not a lot. Do you suspect something? Well, this is what I know. Back when my dad was still alive, he showed me every single plant in the Palace Resna's gardens. One of them was mandragora, big green leaves, pretty purple flowers. He told me you can make an extract from its roots. A little bit helps you sleep. More than that causes delirium, and a lot stops your heart. I think I see where this is going. I know it seems preposterous, but the night His Majesty King Valero died, I brought him his evening cup of tea as usual. He seemed in a daze as if he didn't even recognize me. A few days afterwards, I went out to the part of the garden where my father had planted the mandragora. Nothing but a smooth patch of dirt. I was kind of thinking that, like, yeah, he was assassinated. It couldn't have just been so easy as that. I mean, even like in the main game, I won't spoil too much, but you didn't become president purely just by the grace of your charm or anything like that. There's always more to it. Who was around the palace that night? The Queen Mother, obviously, Grand Wiseman Ignatius, Titus, and his men. Ah, and your uncle was meeting with Lucida Azaro prior to her council appointment. So, quite the list, not including me, of course. When was the last time you saw the plants? A few months before that, maybe. I remembered the flowers blooming. So, yes, it's possible their disappearance had nothing to do with the king's death. Could someone have slipped it in his supper? Pablo grimaced. I was tasting all of His Majesty's food at that time, so whoever it was would have had to be very creative. Yeah, I don't know if the coroner would have caught that, because it seems like it was a case of it being dosed to him. All right, let's say father was indeed poisoned. What would be the motivation? To put me on the throne, somebody that can be controlled if possible. We both know His Majesty had a long list of enemies, but the goal could simply have been to put you on the throne. Nobody wanted me to be king that badly. Well, I mean, it's not so much about you being king, it's about you being on the throne and having someone there to influence you, which in this case would be my uncle. I do kind of feel like that's just a little too obvious. Like he just seems a little too like the obvious bad guy. So I feel like it's going to be somebody else. Maybe it's my mom. Or I'm next. No matter what, I would urge caution. There were so few people he trusted by the end. If my suspicions are correct, it means one of them took advantage of that trust. And of all those people are still in your inner circle today. You know, but then again, now that I think about it, I think it was it my uncle? I think it was my uncle that insisted that we drink wine. And it did turn out to be a good thing to not drink the wine because later on it was mentioned about how hot it was and stuff. So it would have made me delirious and stuff. But then again, there was also the case of Ignatius, who turned around and wanted us to drink the wine because it was part of the ceremony and stuff. So, so yeah, it could be a lot of different people. I think the only person that hasn't asked me to drink wine or anything like that was the councilman, the councilwoman, Lady Azaro. I see. I'm going to have to look into this further. Yeah, let's go with that. And I also could see Pablo doing it as well because I mean he comes from I think he comes from a common background. So maybe he didn't like the king and like the stuff that he was doing and feel some type of way towards the monarchy. I also suspect that he's like a secret Gokandis or something like that. So yeah, let's start this investigation. I see. I'm gonna have to look into this further. Pablo nodded. What do you think I should do next? I wish I knew. Try to find out as much as you can without raising suspicion, I guess. I'll keep an ear out myself. Palace gossip gets around. Trust me, old friend. I'll always have your back. Demari volu un oxit solu. He finished the phrase with a gentle smile, then rose from his seat. I'll take my leave before your water gets cold. See you later. He quietly exited the room, leaving me to finish my bath. After a thorough soak, I dressed and headed to my study. I still had some work to go over before the trip back. Huh. I heard you can romance him, and I can see where you could romance him now. Okay. Let's see. Territory of Zeal. Read the report. Preparations underway for the 24th annual Weswick Rizian Friendship Day. That is, my God, that name. The city of Zeal is preparing for this year's Weswick Rizian Friendship Day ceremonies. Our motorcade is slated to arrive at Smolak Square at 13:45, after which there will be speeches as well as a special surprise that President Smolak has yet to disclose. Later that afternoon, there will be the opportunity to discuss the impending transfer of the region. Oh boy, that has me nervous. Okay, so private audience with the Golden Guard, revolutionary Malinievis propaganda ban. Books, magazines, pamphlets from Malinievis countries such as United Cantana, Vogtland, and Gomlin have been reaching our shores. These seemingly innocuous reading materials have the potential to lead to the spread of socialist thought among the populace. I'm gonna ignore it. Private audience with the Golden Guard. Okay, that's a thing. Oh, we have a report over here too. PM Alvarez warns not to underestimate Melanievism. Lesbia's Prime Minister Patricio Alvarez has issued a strong warning following increasing Melanievis activity in the region. While not naming Rizia by name, the PM said that certain countries are blind to the dangers of Melanievism and its propaganda. Dangerous ideas like these should not be allowed to spread. But what if I allow it to spread and then it kind of offsets the bull going on with Ado as well? Just a thought. Save the Arfeld campaign asks for support. Decide whether to support the environmentalist coalition. The Morella-based nonprofit coalition Save the Arfeld is organizing a campaign to raise awareness around the pollution of the Arfeld River watershed. They claim the river has been contaminated by heavily acidic wastewater runoff from the mines in the nearby Meptium International Trade Zone. They are asking the trade zone stakeholders, including Rizia, for their financial support. I'm not going to donate to that because I don't have the money to really do that. So I was warned that I should also keep a very close eye on the budget, and we're at 1 right now. So I would like to not go any lower than that. Save the Arafel Coalition thanks socialist countries for donations. After requesting donation from all MIT stakeholders to further their campaign against the pollution of the Arafeld River, the coalition reported substantial gifts from Vogtland and Morella, with Lesbia and Rizia refusing to donate to the cause. The coalition expressed its gratitude to the socialist countries that donated, as well as to individual smaller donors. Oh, so maybe that would have helped garner some support for the socialist countries in the process. Great. Okay. Now let's do the private audience with the Golden Guard. The crisp morning air filling my lungs as I crossed the palace courtyard with Hugo. I was headed to a long overdue meeting with Titus regarding the Golden Guard, and my uncle had insisted on accompanying me. I'm glad you've arranged a formal meeting with Captain Gordian. There's much to be gained in fostering a robust relationship. Why do I just keep getting the feeling that this is his guard and not mine? Agreed, there's substantial benefits to strengthening ties between us. Not sure what there's to be gained. Highly doubt it. Forging a personal relationship is inconsequential. What matters mostly is his ability to perform his duties. I'm just going to go with agreed. More than you know, they possess an untapped potential that would prove quite advantageous should the need arise. Unfortunately, their current directive limits their capabilities. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Captain Gordian can tell you more. Beyond establishing a robust relationship, my primary concern pertains to Titus's loyalty and whether or not I can rely on him. I'll just say that's all well and good, but what I'm most interested in is knowing where his allegiances lie. There's never been a more loyal subject than Captain Titus Gordian. He lives and breathes honor and devotion. Mm, and I say, then I'll look forward to seeing him live up to your expectations. You painted quite a positive picture of him. It wasn't long before we'd crossed the courtyard and reached the armory, which also served the Golden Guard's headquarters. As we approached, a pair of soldiers flanked on either side of the entrance greeted us with a formal salute. Salute back. Hugo and I continued on our way. Upon entering, I found myself surrounded by a collection of old weaponry and armor on display. The polished shields and rusted swords appeared frozen in time. We eventually reached a training facility where we found Captain Gordian in boxing gloves sparring with another Golden Guardsman. My money is on the captain. What do you say? 50 guilder? As king, I mustn't indulge in gambling, whether with money or life. Fair enough. Captain Gordian? The captain stopped what he was doing and turned to face us. He and his opponent bowed their heads when they saw me. Forgive me, Your Majesty. I didn't see you there. You're earlier than I expected. I'm surprised you were unaware of your king's whereabouts, considering that falls within your jurisdiction. Fair point. No need. If anything, I should be the one apologizing for interrupting you. No need, but I appreciate the sentiment. I was just showing our newest recruit a thing or two in the ring. I must say, that's quite the right hook you got there. Complimentary of professional boxing days. I would have loved to watch you fight professionally. Thank you, sir. That means a lot. In any event, we should get a move on. We have plenty to talk about. In any case, I'm pressed for time, so let's adjourn from here. Sure, let's go with that. Absolutely. If you'll follow me, we can delve into the matter you're here to address. Captain Gordian removed his boxing gloves as he headed toward an entrance to another wing of the armory. Well, Your Grace, shall we? I'd actually prefer to speak with Captain Gordian one-on-one. Really? I mean, yes, of course. You can wait around until my business is complete, but you're welcome to take your leave. Yes, understood. Hugo seemed to force a smile before bowing his head and turning away. I left my uncle and caught up to Captain Gordian as he was stepping inside the building. Upon entering, I was once again enveloped by an array of antiquated weaponry and armor. Titus motioned towards the displays. I brought most of this out of storage soon after I took command. A considerable portion of what you see was in bad shape and required extensive refurbishment. I think our armed forces might need an upgrade. Bows and arrows feel a bit outdated, don't you think? No, let's not say that. Quite the arsenal you've got here, Captain. Believe me, this is just a fraction of what the palace has got tucked away. If you desired, I'd be honored to provide you with the background and history of anything here. Um, Very well, let's hear it. Certainly. What would you like to hear about first? Why don't you tell me about that sword? I motioned to a broadsword prominently displayed in the center of the room. I assumed its placement held particular significance. Terador's fury. Its notoriety spans back several hundred years, just after the Empire of Vogel seized Palais from Rizia. Although we lost our most important port, we managed to keep our enemy from making further inroads into the kingdom at the Battle of Terador. This sword is said to be the very weapon that severed the head of the commanding general of the Vogel's army. What interests me most about this story is the part about Palais being annexed from Rizia. That's what keeps me awake at night. It is indeed a sore spot in our history. If you would like, Your Majesty, I can have the sword polished for ceremonial use. That would be great. Is there anything else you're curious about? Tell me about that impressive suit of armor. I pointed to an intricately adorned armored suit that stood out amongst the others. That would be the armor of King Henricus Torres, the first ancestor from whom all members of your house are descended. After securing power in Monquise, his dynasty maintained a stronghold over the city-state throughout the Marquian era, and, upon the foundation of the Kingdom of Rizia, assumed control over neighboring Valenquiris. But I'm sure you knew that already. Yes, but it's always good to refresh myself on our history. What else would you like to know? I'm curious to know about whatever that is. I gestured toward a metal coffin-like structure that stood upright. That would be Saint Mercy, our aptly named Iron Maiden, a torture device from a bygone era. Lined with spikes on the inside, it was designed to inflict excruciating pain when closed. You'll be happy to know it hasn't been used in quite some time. Uh, yes, most reassuring. I wonder if there's like a achievement you can get if you turn around and execute somebody with that thing. It was, however, supposedly used on suspected spies during Rizian succession. Let us hope that it's never brought out of retirement. Oh, it's gonna be brought out of retirement. The last thing we need is for House Sazon and House Azaro to get any bright ideas. What else can I tell you about? Actually, I'm ready to move on. Very well. This way, sir. We continued onward until we reached Captain Gordian's office on the far side of the hall. It too was adorned with a large collection of war memorabilia. Captain Gordian gestured to a sitting area. Please, have a seat. Sit. I sat on a nearby leather armchair. The captain took out a bottle of wine from a cabinet. Would you care for some wine? It's an exceptional vintage dating back to 1893 to be exact, from Rizia's very own Contivo vineyards. Thanks, but no thanks. I only drink wine from 1892. There's just so many people that always ask me about whether or not I'm going to drink. And there's so many options that comes along with that. I feel like that's gonna play a factor at some point. Like, come on. The fact that you would consider drinking on the job raises questions about your professionalism, Titus. We in the Golden Guard are trained to keep our resources sharp in any situation, intoxicated or otherwise. But you're right to have your doubts. Forgive me, Your Majesty. Captain Gordian put the bottle away. So to what do I owe the pleasure of your visit? Let's see. I guess I could do the thing about saying what my uncle said. I'm looking to develop a clearer understanding of the individuals comprising my security detail, particularly the man who's leading them. Well, I'm more than happy to tell you about myself, though you might find hearing about the Golden Guard more interesting. Do you have eyes on me at all times, even during intimate moments? It is our utmost aim to protect the royal family's security while respecting your privacy. You can expect that we'll be watching you and your family members in public and standing guard outside any rooms you enter. But what you do in that room is no business of ours. Surely you must leave your post at some point. We keep a tight rotation. Asleep or awake, you will always be protected. Hypothetically, could the Golden Guard help the Crown with the murder investigation? Titus didn't blink. If we were granting the resources, such an investigation would not be out of the question. Would you care to elaborate? Such an investigation might require conducting surveillance within palace walls. Understood. The guard would definitely be the best option for such a sensitive undertaking. I don't know if I believe that. What do you deem to be the biggest threat to my personal safety right now? Titus looked around, then turned back to me. Your government security forces seem to have a handle on the populace, but who has a handle on them? I don't want to overstep my bounds so early into my employ, but I do believe the Azaros could pose a threat. You're not worried about the Saisons? I doubt they would try another attempt at your life, not after how badly your kidnapping ended for them. That will be all. Thank you. If there's anything else I can do for you, don't hesitate to ask. Thanks again for your hospitality. Titus gave a heartfelt bow and left my company. Navigating through the armory once more, I eventually found my uncle in the vicinity of Titus's boxing match. There you are. I trust your discussion with Titus was productive. It was, actually. I seem to have misjudged the captain. I'm pleased to hear it. I won't overstep my bounds by asking the nature of your chat. However, to provide you with optimal guidance, I propose sharing such information with me going forward. Hugo and I said our goodbyes and parted ways. I still wasn't fully sold on whether or not Titus could be trusted, but satisfied knowing that my influence over him remained strong. For now. And also, does it remain strong? I mean, again, a lot of this was either your father's suggestion or your uncle's, so, All right, Novasar oil field ends production. The Novasar oil field in Brennus has been shut down following the exhaustion of its reserves. Experts advise that our kingdom concentrate on its natural gas resources in order to fill the energy gap. Okay. Oh, and now we have the Rizzian Friendship Day. I couldn't tell if the sky was growing darker or if it was just tinted windows, the tinted windows of the armored car. Our motorcade slowed as it approached the Zeal border. A concrete barrier rose up in front of us, its top strung with barbed wire. My mother had insisted on accompanying me to the Rizian Friendship Day festivities. She leaned against the window, uncharacteristically quiet. Are you all right, Mother? I'm absolutely fine, darling. Say, might we have time for a quick detour once we reach town? Of course. She leaned forward and gave the driver an address. He nodded. At the border, we presented our identification documents and the official invitation from President Smolik. As we crossed, the road turned uneven. Promise me you'll get these highways back up and running once Zeal is returned. It's at the top of my list. Factory smokestacks rose up on either side of us. Through the haze, I spotted numerous shantytowns built over the past few years to house miners and refinery workers. We entered the city and drove on through a maze of tenement buildings, their facets hastily repainted to hide the damage from the war 20 years ago. As my mother had instructed him to, the driver veered down a side street that led toward the coast. We stopped in front of a small wooden building with a collapsed roof. The front porch was partly buried in sand. Jagged teeth of broken glass lined the window frames. They say you can't go home again. Rarely do they mean it this literally. She blinked back tears. I can't believe this is the same place we used to go every summer. She put a hand on my shoulder. I never brought my parents here after they fled to Rizia. I knew it would break their hearts. I wish they could have seen it one last time, the way it used to be. I thought back to my carefree summers in Zeal. My grandparents had spent the last 10 years of their lives in Palace Resna, surrounded by luxury, but they never seemed as happy as they did in this house. You did everything you could for them. They should have been more grateful. I'll have it fixed up one day. It'll be our summer home again. That ship has sailed, child. Just think, if I hadn't convinced Valero to get Wehlen involved in our affairs, none of this would have happened. She looked down at her hands. The Wezek president back then was such an upstanding man. How could I have known he'd go and get himself killed? It's not your fault. Father should have reneged on the agreement immediately after the assassination. It was a period of instability across all of Marcopa. You were playing with fire. I'll just say it's not your fault. And made outright enemies of Wehlen while our own country was still weak? Don't be foolish. We both fell silent. After a few moments, she plastered a smile on her face. Enough dallying. Driver, step on it. We've got a date with a psychopath. We returned to the main road and drove towards Smolik Square, a circular plaza in the center of town that had once been named after Duke Fado Cezanne. A silver-stretched limousine was parked just in front of the square. Our driver stopped and we exited the car, flanked by our guards. Say what you will about Smolik, he never makes a dull entrance. A dozen uniformed soldiers hurriedly got into formation around us and the limo. The door opened, and Victor Smolik stepped out. Your Majesty King Ramis, Queen Mother Estella. He made a sweeping, exaggerated bow and straightened up with a grin. Welcome to Wehlen. Please, make yourselves at home. It's heartening to see that the Zeal remains in good hands. Again, I'm going to try to be nice to these folks for now. Yes, this square used to be gray and boring. Now look at it. He gestured out to the square, where a colorful banner reading 24 years of Weswick-Rizian friendship hung above a trio of gleaming tanks. Ah yes, nothing symbolizes friendship like heavy artillery. Looks impressive. Where did you get those tanks? Rizia isn't Wehlen's only friend, Your Majesty. The square was surrounded by grandstands, one side decorated in the colors of Wehlen's flag, the other in Rizia's red and gold. I heard loud cheers emanating from them. I've invited the finest representatives from both our countries to join us for this special occasion. Follow me, if you will. A semicircular stage was set up in front of the tanks. The crowd roared as we crossed the square and made our way over to it. Looking up into the grandstands, I noticed armed guards standing on every level. A captive audience. That would explain the enthusiasm. Nice idea. The crowd at my coronation sounded lackluster by comparison. That just sounds naive. Disgusting. The whole ceremony is a sham. My mother and I took our seats. Victor stepped up to the microphone. Wessex, Brizians, people of Zeal. 24 years ago, the glorious country of Wehlen was given custody over this land. A great honor and a tremendous responsibility. Wehlen didn't only gain new territory that day. We gained new friends. He gestured meaningfully towards the Rizian side of the stands. After a few seconds, they broke out in scattered applause. My mother muttered a harsh-sounding curse in Zeal dialect. I know, I can't believe this guy. Together, we have overcome war, repaired our economy, and made great strides in science and industry. Even the decision of the Taurus family to ally with Runeberg, a nation that obviously wishes Wehlen harm, could not diminish the beautiful bond we have formed. I look forward to strengthening that bond for many, many years to come. He stepped to the side and pulled a rope attached to a flagpole. A massive Wessex flag unfurled, then a much smaller Rizian one. This dude. Let Victor finish his speech. I sat back in my chair and kept silent. Today, I am especially delighted to be blessed with the presence of Rizia's new king, as well as the Queen Mother, of course. They are heirs to a long, proud legacy, one that would have been shattered had Wehlen and Rizia not made the fateful decision to work hand in hand. On that note, please give a warm welcome to King Ramus Taurus. Rise. I stood up. The Rizian side of the stands immediately erupted in loud, authentic-sounding applause. Let's see. My fellow Rizians. You may not know it, but I am a grandson of Zeal. The Queen Mother and I have deep ties to this land. Let's see, it pained me when my father signed away this beautiful part of Rizia, yet I knew it was for a greater good. Maybe not the best thing to say. The past years have not been easy for any of you, but the time will soon come when we are reunited. I pledge to support Rizians and Wessex alike through the upcoming peaceful transfer of power. Glorious Axa Rizia. He may not like this speech. Glory to Rizia, echoed the Rizian side of the stands. Richter gave me an appraising glance, then readjusted the microphone. What a speech! The Kings have got charisma. We have a terrific evening of entertainment lined up. But first, we must commemorate this landmark meeting of world leaders with a traditional triple tank salute. I don't think that's a traditional thing. There was a rumbling from behind us as 3 tanks aimed their barrels into the air. My mother and I looked at each other. Those really are some impressive tanks. We can thank his eastern benefactors, I presume. Victor raised the finger up in the air. 1. The tank on the left fired, sending a plume of gold-colored smoke high over the stands. The crowd gasped in excitement. 2. The gun mounted to the tank on the right went off. This time, the smoke was Magneta. 3. His count was interrupted by an unidentified voice in the distance shouting, "For the king." Victor whipped his head around in shock, a frenzied look in his eyes. I turned to my mother. Mother, what happened? I don't... A deafening blast, much louder than the 2 that had preceded it, echoed from the opposite end of the square. I turned towards the source of the sound and saw Wezzik's side of the stand engulfed in flames. I will try to look heroic. Let's run towards the stands. Your Majesty, get down. Titus dove at me and tackled me to the ground. Screams of fear and confusion were rising up from all around. Where's my mother? Ramus. My mother and Victor were still on the podium, surrounded by a thick cordon of Wezzik guards. Get me over there, Titus. They'll be fine. We have to get you out of here. He and Smolek's guards exchanged a series of hand signals. The crowd had begun fleeing in every direction. Titus grabbed my arm and swiftly started ushering me away. I took one last look back. Smoke was now rising from the Wezzik grandstand. Part of the structure had collapsed, and soldiers were working to free the people trapped underneath. The next few moments were a blur as we made our way through the panicked hordes of civilians. Victor's limo pulled up and Titus roughly shoved me inside. Thank God you're safe. My mother's voice shook. She and Victor were sitting across from me, looking dazed. Are you hurt? Of course she isn't. It seemed like no Rizian was harmed. Smolek had fire in his eyes. If your people have anything to do with this, there will be a price to pay. He kept his eyes on me as the car began pulling away. Oh, shit. Preliminary report on Friendship Day bombing incident. Wezzik Intelligence has released a thorough accounting of the events of the Wezzik Rizian Friendship Day. The explosion is said to have been caused by a detonation device planted under the grandstand and timed to go off during the afternoon celebrations. Part of the stands collapsed in the blast, killing 3 Wezzik civilians and injuring a further 14. Witnesses at the event had heard the shouted phrase, "For the king," prior to the blast, suggesting a political motivation and the involvement of pro-Rizia supporters. Wehlen's intelligence forces have indicated that the group Su Amina is under particular suspicion for the attack. I have 2 trains of thought for this. I feel like, 1, this might have been done by Smolek in the first place, but also on the flip side of this, 2, I kind of feel like, yeah, Su Amina might have had something to do with this. I mean, I have no problems purging them in the process. I don't want them around, so if I have to deal with them, I will deal with them. Okay, I will go ahead and read the newspapers, and then after that, I will wrap things up for this video. King unharmed in Zeal bombing. Breaking news: an explosion has occurred in Zeal Smolex Square, site of this year's Wesek Rizian Friendship Day festivities. King Ramus and Queen Mother Estella, both in attendance, managed to escape unharmed. Though the cause of the blast is still unclear, this was undoubtedly a malicious act, of course. Expect more updates in the coming days as the incident is thoroughly investigated. King envisions greater gas exports, Esquirus Field to provide. In order to increase Rizia's gas output as well as to boost domestic energy security, the palace has announced that it will be undertaking a major expansion of the Aquarius offshore gas field. The construction of a new offshore platform as well as an onshore refining facilities will greatly increase Rizia's gas production capabilities, paving the way for this backbone of our economy to be strengthened. The king has announced that this new decree will potentially allow for greater exporting of natural gas to Rizia's neighbors in the future, something that will only be undertaken if, according to the palace, the security of Rizia's domestic supply won't be threatened. The announcement highlighted that this could provide great future riches for this country. Rizia signs pair of historic deals with Sordlin. Sordlin's first official diplomatic visit to Rizia in over 30 years proved a smashing success. President Ewald Afonso and his development minister Gus Manger flew back home as friends of the king, having cemented a pair of historic deals between the two countries. Freshly freed from the tyranny of Colonel Tarquin Sol, Sordlin has been eager to restore the trade relationship it enjoyed with Rizia under the reign of King Egmont. A new free trade agreement will bring delicious Sordish whiskey to our shores, while making Contivo easier for grateful swords to access. Meanwhile, the province of Valenquez can expect more Sordish visitors, as a resort operated by businessman Marcel Coranti is slated for construction on the Monkeys coast. Okay. And geopolitical, my goodness. 8. Will Zeal incident disrupt fragile bond between Rizia and Wehlen? And that's the other thing I forgot too. This could have been done by Ado in the process as well, because maybe they didn't want to have us on, equal footing and such. There's also Runeberg. Runeberg could have turned around and done this as well. So, because if I'm not mistaken, they were already doing stuff in Wehlen in the first place. Let's see. The shocking explosion that rocked this year's Wesek Rizian Friendship Day in Zeal could impact the region's transition back to Rizian government, experts say. While the exact cause of the incident has not yet been determined, all signs point to inactive terrorism, and the fact that only Wesek civilians were harmed would certainly indicate Rizia's involvement. Should Wesek President Victor Smolak feel security in the region has been sufficiently compromised, he can invoke paragraph 37 of Article 20 of AN law to delay the handover. This would, however, anger the Rizians, who have been anticipating a timely return of their land. Although Wehlen and Rizia have a history of mutual aid, the relationship between the country has been fractious since the Wehlen Civil War and the formation of close ties between Rizia and Runeberg. The Zeal bombing might well be the tipping point. Czarinists seek refuge in Asiok and Nalimperna. The flight of Czarinists and anti-Malignevist dissidents from United Contana to the relative safety of Asioka and Naliperna is painting a stark picture of fear and political oppression. As these refugees cross borders in search of sanctuary, they carry with them the burden of escalating tensions and the prospect of stringent policy reforms in their host countries. The exodus underscores the profound impact of United Contana's internal crackdown, highlighting issues in governance, human rights, and the brief amount of reduced stability of the south of United Contana. Walker Plan drives economic growth in Central Marcopa, augments Ado Reach. The Walker Plan, spearheaded by Arcasian President Dwight Walker, has catalyzed economic growth in Central Marcopa, benefiting nations like Agard, Montsevit, and Somme-Mayor by promoting market reforms and privatization. These countries have seen an expansion in consumer options and increased efficiency. Even with the strong ideological and political impact of the Arcasian dream, concerns over rising inequality and marginalization of smaller economies remain. The plan focuses on privatization and deregulation while stimulating competition, also risk exasperating wealth disparities and undermining local industries. New parliamentary faction rumors in Roomberg. Within the stately halls of Roomberg's parliament, whispers of a burgeoning monarchist faction have surfaced, aiming to amplify its voice under Queen Beatrice's reign. This nascent faction aspiration to influence policy represent the latest evolution in Roomberg's vibrant political scene. As it seeks Queen Beatrice's acknowledgement, its potential rise could steer Roomberg to adopt a more assertive foreign policy, particularly in safeguarding the interests of the Grace Alliance. Should this monarchist faction secure a foothold, the implication could extend beyond Roomberg's borders, signaling a possible recalibration of international postures amongst constitutional monarchies. Save the Airfield Coalition pleads for support. A coalition of non-governmental organizations calling itself Save the Airfield has called on the governments of Rizia, Lesbia, Morella, and Voxland to acknowledge the devastation wreaked on Morella's Airfield River watershed by the International Trade Zone, the largest cooperative gold mining venture on the Marcopan continent. Their petition, which has been signed by over 100,000 Morellans, claims that improper waste management has led to the leaching of toxic chemicals into the river and its environs. They have gathered the testimonies from local residents who speak of dwindling fish stocks, contaminated drinking water, and health complications. The coalition is demanding concentrated cleanup efforts from all four countries, as well as reparations for those affected. Non-interventionism gains momentum in Arcasia under Devereux. Charles Devereux of the Reformist Union Party is emerging as a potent force in Arcasian politics, challenging President Dwight Walker's vision of Arcasian capitalism. Advocating for reduced military interventions and favoring détente with United Contana, Devereux's approach marks a stark departure from Walker's policies. His call for rapprochement signifies a potential shift in the Arcasian foreign policy, resonating with a segment of the populace dissatisfied with the current aggressive stance. This movement underscores a growing divide in Arcasian politics, in Arcasian political thought, reflecting the nation's struggle to balance its superpower status with evolving global rivalry tensions. Sordish and Rizia re-established ties. Sources have indicated a thaw in Rizia and Sordish relations as a diplomatic visit to the kingdom by new Sordish president Ewald Alfonso was said to have ended in a deal being inked between the two nations. This marks a turning point both for Sordish, which maintained few relationships with its neighbors under the rule of Colonel Sol, and for Rizia, which in recent years has been trading exclusively with Roomberg. From how Queen Beatrice will react to her ally shaking hands with her kingdom's historical enemy remains to be seen. Federation of Anraka bolsters trade ties with Osioke and Nalaperna. The Federation of Anraka is bolstering its economic ties with the anarchist cantons of Osioke and the Kingdom of Nalaperna, seeking to capitalize on its strategic location and abundant natural resources. This initiative is poised to bolster regional economic resilience, knitting a tapestry of mutual prosperity that challenges the hegemony of traditional superpower-led trade blocs. And Raqa's move to enhance these alliances heralds a new era of regional cooperation, potentially reshaping the economic contours of the continent and offering a fresh paradigm of interdependence in the global market. Okay, so I think that is everything that we had to read. Federation of Enraka. My God. I think I want to go ahead and look over some of this after I get done with this because I'm curious about some of these countries. It seems like they have interesting governments that don't really kind of align with anything we've had in the real world. So I'm kind of curious on how some of this plays out. Like in this case, we have the anarchist cantons of Osioke. So you have an anarchist nation? I'm curious on how that would play out. I mean, the world is broken up enough to actually, I guess, facilitate something like that. But still, curious on how that would actually work out. But anywho, I'm going to go ahead and stop the video right here. Now, I think for the next video that will be coming out on, this is Wednesday now. So this video will be coming out Thursday. The next video will be coming out Friday. I think what I may do is I may have the Friday video be a lot longer. So it might end up being 2 or 3 hours. And basically just to give a long video to kind of cover the weekend, because I'm trying not to record. Well, I try to record on the weekends, and then that'll give me time to have a bit of a buffer into the week, because I do have a regular job as well, and it's kind of hard to turn around and record throughout the week. So yeah, I want to go ahead and have that buffer. So won't have a video Saturday and Sunday most likely, but there will be a long video for Friday to kind of make up for that. So kind of catch people up on certain things. So again, if there are any comments, please leave them in the comment section. But if you like the video, please like the video. If you like this content, subscribe. I have a lot of things on the channel, and I will have many other things in the future. Again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I will get to them as soon as I can. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.